Alrighty. Welcome back, everybody. 100 Proof Whitetails Podcast, episode 96. We're going short, we're going late, we're going solo tonight in the office chair. Um, bunch of stuff going on. Nate's busy with work, cranking with Pierce Metalworks. So we're going to roll the sponsors of the episode and kind of give some updates, talk anybody's questions that they might have, whether it relates to food plots or real estate or anything like that. Kind of just an informal episode. Wanted to hit one because next week I will be out of town. So that means the next episode we would have been able to do is July 29th. Would like to do a couple more episodes in that a month. So to keep it rolling, that's what we're doing. So solo show tonight. Want to roll the sponsors to start it off. Right up here. Busy Bee Chiropractic and Wellness. I'm working with a green screen tonight, so bear with me. Located in Newark, New York, Busy Bee for all of your chiropractic and wellness needs. Go see Dr. Britt to get adjusted and start feeling better today. Everything from sauna, they have a nutritionist on site, everything like that. But if you're looking for basic chiropractic needs, you got them aches, you got those pains, you want to keep feeling good, go see Busy Bee Chiropractic and Wellness, and Dr. Britt will keep you feeling good. Just had my chiro this week, my once a month. I go more than that if I need it, but I do my once a month checkup, and I'm in pretty good shape. So, um, next up, I'm wearing on a different board here because I have different monitors in the office. M&R Firewood Services here in Phelps, New York. As you're heading out of town on 96, headed toward like Geneva, Waterloo. Check them out there as you just head out of town right before you hit the 45 zone and go down in the dip to head up out of town. If you've been there, you know. Also, they have a roadside stand down on Seneca Lake, down by Smokin' Pete's, just past that. So go check them out there. Oh yeah, and by the way, their newest location on the corner of 488 and Shrew Road at our farm stand, they have their own firewood rack. So they have their own separate cash box on that, as well as their prices. It's all bundled. So if you're getting camp wood or anything like that, we do have roadside availability there on our roadside stand at the corner of Shrew Road and 488. So thank you, Megan and Rick. We appreciate you guys helping us fill out the stand as we're kind of getting our feet wet and getting going with the farm stand. So we got firewood bundles there available from them. Also, if you're looking for like specialty woods, smoking woods, firewood orders, they do that too. So just reach out to M&R Firewood. They'll be able to help you with whatever your need is when it comes to wood products here locally. Pierce Metalworks, my right hand man and co-host, been with me since the get-go with this. Nate, he's probably still out in the office or his shop right now, working right along. He's got a big order he's got to try to get done by this weekend. He's got a deadline, so I'm sure he'll be back next episode, and we're due to put one back at Pierce Metalworks for an episode. So probably episode 97 will be over at Pierce Metalworks there on County Road 6 for all of your metal fabricating, welding, repair needs, anything like that. They got CNC, they got lathes. Nate's got anything, and he's got the to make it come together and make your vision a reality. He's made a bunch of custom orders, custom parts for stuff, and they say, "Hey, can you make me something like this?" And Nate says, "Yeah, we can do that." Or fix this, I broke it. I could do that. So Pierce Metal Works. Phelps Fire Department here in Phelps, New York. Coming up, we will piggyback into them a little bit more here later on in this episode when we talk about some of the upcoming events that I wanted to highlight community-wise here locally before. But thank you, Phelps, for helping us with our youth fundraiser and everything like that we do every year. Gave us a great venue to have that, where we could actually have a sit down, have some raffles, have some good time and some fellowship. They got a great little venue there where you can rent it for like graduation parties, get-togethers, family reunions, anything like that, fundraisers. Great little clubhouse, full kitchen available, bathrooms. It's heated, it's air conditioned as well. If you're doing it in the summer months or in the winter months, reach out to Phelps Fire if that interests you. And thank you, Phelps Fire, for helping us stay safe in this community. Heritage Outdoor Sports, and then Heritage Archery Academy here in Phelps, New York. Currently, summer leagues are going on. They do have the outdoor course set up. if you are looking to go shoot your bow, just pay your foam fee, go shoot the course, rip some 3D targets. It's a lot of fun. Grab a couple buddies and go hang out and do it. Stop in, say Lou and Mike and Bruce and everybody else there. Let them know that the 100 Proof guys sent you over if you're getting your bow tuned up before season, or if you're looking for that new bow, they got some great deals going on. Also an authorized Tacticam dealer, so if you're looking to put a couple cell cams out, maybe protect your roadside stand or your food plots, monitor them as they're growing right now. Heritage Outdoor Sports is a great stop and place for that. So thank you, Mike, Lou, and all your support. And last but not least, Whitetail Properties here at the Finger Lakes. I'm going to feature a couple of my listings here tonight. And then in future episodes, we're going to probably list one from the Finger Lakes team here, whether it's Tim's, Heather's, or my listing for Whitetail Properties here in the Finger Lakes, and kind of feature one of them every episode just to kind of keep you guys in tune with what's going on and so you can see some kind of market trends and everything like that going on with it. Frank says, any grasshoppers in that clover? Nothing jumping up and hitting me in the ears yet. Yeah, so yeah, I like the green screen background. It's the first time we've done a show with a green screen background, so seeing how it goes. But yeah, so. And yeah, so any of your buying and selling needs, I've been on ground busy. Last few weeks has been absolutely insane for busyness. And then we'll talk about what's going on this weekend, and then what's going on beginning of next week, and then next week, and then the week after that. Busy time to be here local, but a great time to also be local if you're here in the Finger Lakes region, or if you're looking to travel for something to do. There's some great stuff coming up. So we'll start right off with this weekend is Peppermint Days. If you're from Lyons, nope, it's pretty quiet. Peppermint Days are this weekend. They are Friday, Saturday, Sunday this year, I believe. I don't have a full itinerary for that, but I would check them out on Facebook if you're interested in more information on that. I'm going to try to catch the fireworks. I believe those are Saturday night. We'll see. I leave bright and early for St. Louis Sunday morning because next week, the 20th through the 22nd, I will be in St. Louis for our national sales meeting for Whitetail Property. So catching up with a bunch of folks from the company, obviously going through our seminars, our team building, our camaraderie. We call it a family reunion. It's our national sales meeting, but we call it our family reunion. This will be my third year going there. Again, that's where I'll be next week. So if we think it's hot here, wait till I get to St. Louis. It's going to be way hotter in St. Louis. Also next week is the Ontario County Fair. So go out and support your youth 4-H. I was talking to some folks the other day, and apparently Seneca County doesn't have 4-H anymore. And we're seeing, unfortunately, a dip in 4-H participation across the country. So I think now is the best time to rekindle that and go out there and support these kids. Again, check them out on Facebook. The Ontario County Fair. Figure out what day 4-H Day is. I think it's really awesome and interesting. I showed animals in 4-H in my tail end of my high school career and everything like that. So I really enjoyed the showmanship side of it and getting your animal prepped, getting it ready, working with that animal, showing that animal to highlight its features, basically, just similar way we do with properties and everything like that now on the real estate side of stuff. But that was really cool, and I think it was a great building experience, and I think it gives kids a lot of practical life skills going forward. So check that out. The following week there would be the week of the 20th through the 25th. I don't have, again, a full itinerary for that. The only one I have a full itinerary for is the week after that. We will be doing more talking about that when we do an episode on the 29th of July, so tune in for that. But we have please get on the screen. Of course, I'm with a green screen, so it's not letting me do it. So it is Stars, Stripes, and Sauerkraut. Phelps Sauerkraut Fest weekend. 2026. This is America's 250 celebration. Let me see if I can get really close with it. There we go. There's the logo for it. That's Thursday through Sunday, July 30th through August 2nd. The rundown is insane. It's a trifold brochure. Not a bifold, it's trifold. Um, Thursday, there's everything from food vendors and everything at the grounds. There's popsicles, bounce houses for the kids at Redfield Park, ride bracelets, everything like that. Kitty costume parade lineup at 6 o'clock at Redfield Park. Bounce house at the grounds is from 6 to 10. And then Playland amusement rides on those kids specials bracelets are 5 to 11 p.m. And then live music is down on the grounds from 7 to 10. And that's just Thursday. Um, Friday, they got cabbage head decorating and drop that off at the Phelps Arts Center. Food marketplace vendors are open, rides and amusements. The Kraut Crawl will be pouring at the Kraut Crawl again. The 100 Proof guys will. 4 till 8, that is on Friday. Check in on at Main Street, which is the old office there for BDTC. That's where you register and everything like that. And pre-registration is required. They don't do any day of sales with that. So if you haven't got your ticket, and if there are still tickets, I would hurry up and get some, because we're going to be pouring some pretty nice stuff there. I think they're going to have us at the Phelps Arts Center, but don't hold me to that. You'll find us somewhere along the line. Usually there's some laughs. Jeff will be hanging out with us, who's the big full-size body deer. He's always a hit during Sauerkraut weekend, during the parade and the Kraut Crawl and everything else like that. So check us out. 100 Proof guys will be there at the Kraut Crawl. Live music by Skinny Jeans and Downtown, and then live music at the Legion, which is Swagger that night, and then Dirt Child is at the grounds on Friday. Saturday is everything with the Crowder, which is one of the longest runs here in the Finger Lakes. My wife will probably correct me that it might be the longest. I know it's one of the longest tradition runs here in the Finger Lakes region. So, the oldest race in the Finger Lakes, sorry, that is the oldest race in the Finger Lakes, is the Crowder. They have a 20K and a 5K. I haven't decided if I'm running the 5K yet or if I'm doing a water stop. We'll see. I'll be going wherever I am needed that week, that weekend. Pancake breakfast at the Phelps Fire Hall that morning on Saturday. Food and vendors will be open at the grounds. Cars, coffee, and kraut will be at the PCC. That's typically their car show. Big slip and slide at Crooked Bridge Park, which I think they started doing last year, which I heard was a pretty good hit. There'll be a car show at the Methodist Church as well, from 10 to 2, so some of the folks might bounce from one to go to the other. Vacation Bible School Carnival at the Methodist Park. Tractor Show is at the grounds 10 to 3. Grounds rides from noon till 10. Chicken barbecue at the Mason Lodge. Hot dog eating contest, which is right there on Main Street. That is at 12:30. Sauerkraut recipe contest at 1:30. Giant Patriotic Parade is at 4 o'clock, so check us out there. We'll be having the, Jeff will be in the back of the truck. We'll be going down Main Street and handing out some candy and stuff to the kids. Battle of the Parade Bands will be down at the grounds at 5:30. Parade winners announced at the pavilion at 6:30. Cake cutting of the sauerkraut cake at 7, which is a great tradition, and it's a good cake. I know it doesn't sound good being a sauerkraut cake, but it is a very good cake. Also, music that night is from Nerds Gone Wild, and then fireworks at 10. And just when you thought it couldn't get any better, there's Sunday activities as well for the Sauerkraut Fest. You got a kickball tournament, which is brand new this year, at Redfield Park and PCC. We'll see how they make that work this year, but that's at 9 o'clock start. Worship in the Park at Methodist Park at 10. Live music by Ken Campbell, a local here in Phelps, at the Phelps Hotel. He's at 11 to 2, right there at the Phelps Hotel on Main Street. Family activities from 11 to 2. Food truck vendors, 11 to 2. And then chicken barbecue at noon at the Legion. Live music at Smokin' Tails that day is Johnny B and Sweet Tea. And then live music at 47 South, or by 47 South, and that's the American Legion, 2 till 5. And then thank you to all the sponsors of the Sauerkraut Fest on the back of the pamphlet. Sorry I can't get you guys on there. I'm on a green screen tonight, and it's throwing me all off. And then thanks you to all the other sponsors of Sauerkraut Fest. These will be at the grounds and available throughout the weekend. So if you're interested in any of that, check them out on Facebook at Phelps Happenings. Usually posts a lot of the stuff for that, and then Phelps like BDTC and stuff like that with it. So big stuff coming up. Peppermint Days, my St. Louis trip, Ontario County Fair, and Sauerkraut Fest the next 3 weeks/weekends. So fitting in that with showing ground and getting some new listings put up and everything else, it's going to be pretty busy. Right now, Canada is burning and our air quality is allegedly down. I did reshoot and I'm relaunching my Weed of the Week videos that I was doing previously. Started off with a classic. That's over on the YouTube channel. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. If you've already checked it out, appreciate it. And if there's anything you want to see coming up on a Weed of the Week video, let us know. If it's a weed that you have problems with in a food plot, if it's one that you just saw when you're out on a hike. I get those questions a lot from folks too. Or what's this specific plant? Why isn't my clethodim killing this grass in my clover field? You can actually see there's a lot of, looks like grass in this field. There's actually a really good one for this. This will probably be an upcoming one. So if you want to know what next week's Weed of the Week is, I'm going to go find some of this like grassy looking stuff that's in this clover field, and that's going to be my next week's Weed of the Week. So, and spoiler alert, it's not a grass. I actually had a guy that did two, I think, or was about to do his third clethodim application before he was just like, I can't kill this grass. I don't know what's going on with this grass, but I can't kill it in my food plot right now. And come to find out, it's going to be our next week's Weed of the Week. So he couldn't kill it out of his clover with a grass killer. So we'll talk about that one on our next week's Weed of the Week, which I'll have to shoot before I go to St. Louis if I don't, because I probably can't find one of them in downtown St. Louis. Although I might. They grow in sidewalk cracks too. But anyway, so tonight, it's a late show, running solo. Nate's busy in the office. He might even be, or busy in the shop, sorry. He might even be tuning into this while he's working. I did a little pour of nothing, clover. Little pour of E.H. Taylor small batch. It's one of my go-tos and my favorites. And it's available now. So we're starting to see on the whiskey side of stuff, we're seeing a lot more stuff come to market. A lot more harder to find stuff or allocated stuff is trickling on, which is kind of cool. That a lot of people that were chasing these bottles or overpaying for these bottles and enjoyed them can now find them more readily and for better prices than they were previously, because there's just more market, more product in the market, so the costs are coming down. Some of the distilleries have raised their prices a little bit on some of these products for a baseline MSRP, but it's a lot less than some of these products we're going for on a marked up scale here in New York, because we're not a state controlled state for whiskey. So, but Colonel Taylor, who is kind of the father of the Bottled and Bond Act, he's one of my favorites, and this usually comes in a nice little tube. Are you gonna be? Usually comes in a nice little tube. Of course, the bottle looks all broken. But yeah, it's a good pour. Would definitely put it up there with one of my favorites that I like all the time. Can't complain. This is the small batch, which is probably the most easily available. They do have a single barrel, seasoned wood, straight rye, barrel proof, 4 grain, Amaranth of the Gods. They got a whole bunch of them, but the small batch and single barrel, then barrel proof is pretty much all I've ever had, and then the straight rye. We don't see many others. But anyway, right now, for land management stuff, I would really focus on getting yourself as best prepared as you can get for this upcoming deer season. And that might look different for a lot of folks. If you can plant food plots, I would start gearing up to get your planting done if you haven't planted. If you planted now, if you planted your brassicas now, you probably planted a little bit too early. And you're in the middle of a pretty serious, I would say, like 10 days we haven't really had rain. Been watering the garden a lot the last couple weeks. I don't like planting my brassicas right now. I don't want them to get over mature. I don't want them to get overripe. So I'm not planting typically till that second-ish week in August. Now, if the first week of August looks like rain, I'm going to probably gear up and plant first week of August. We put in a bunch of corn this year for most of our food plots just because of our rotation schedule. The field that you see here behind me this section of this field actually is what we planted to buckwheat. So that will either be going to a cereal grain or a brassica crop mixed with clover as its nurse crop. So I'm either nursing it with brassicas or I'm going to nurse it with a cereal grain crop over the top of it. But this is currently in buckwheat. This is a clover photo from several years ago. On that plot, probably going on 8 years ago, I would say. I'd have to look back at when I took this photo, but I love this photo. Since then, this section of the plot where my hand is over here is what is in clover. That looks amazing. It's like a magazine. It's really good. There's a couple spotty spots, mostly along the edge where the drip line is. That just isn't growing that great, and the clover's kind of getting sucked out a little bit by the walnut, with the allelopathic properties that it puts down in the soil to not allow other stuff to grow or grow very well, which is one of its natural adaptations. So you're a little late for buckwheat planting unless you're going to go buckwheat into straight cereal grain. That's where it might differ with some of these timelines, but we'll probably get this buckwheat up there in maturity, and probably the way we planted it, we'll probably be looking more toward a very late brassica crop with cereal or with clovers, or a most likely a cereal grain with clovers into that buckwheat. Now we're probably going to pack it down, and then we're going to maybe drill it if it is wheat. If it's brassicas, we're probably going to broadcast it and then roll it down. So we'll see. We'll see how it matures. That's also kind of a watch the weather, see what happens as well with it. So kind of everything with this that I talk about with food plots is everything is very fluid. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to commercial agriculture that is it's very set, it's very timed. Just like when we planted pumpkins out here for our roadside stand, our sweet corn went in very late because I companion planted my sweet corn, or our sweet corn, with our pumpkins. Why? Because we needed a set number of days until harvest for our pumpkins. That's why the corn couldn't go in ahead of that, because I would be tilling soil and or upkeeping with weeds and planting in pumpkins, and it would just be a mess. So instead we decided to scrap that and plant Father's Day, plant pumpkins and corn and sunflowers all in combination of, and it's coming along really, really well. So I can't wait to do a video update from that. The corn is growing very well in some of our plots. In other plots, we're going to be doing a lot of brassica fill-in here in a couple weeks. So I'm watching that radar, watching that weather, looking at when this is going to pick back up for some rain. Because right now it doesn't do you any good to go out and spread seed if you're not going to get rain. Or worse, you get germination, and then you get no rain, and then you're done. It would almost be better for that seed to sit there and not get any rain for 2 weeks, than get rain the first night and then no rain for 2 weeks, if that makes sense. What you don't want to see is that crop germinate and then die out because it doesn't have moisture to maintain it. Brassicas are pretty hardy if you have a mulch layer, if you're doing a no-till type setup and you're not doing bare soil, or if you're getting it down in that soil to a moisture layer in that soil horizon, then you can maybe see some success with that, where the stuff's drying out above it and then it's able to hold some moisture below it with thatch or moisture in the soil horizons. So big thing is just looking at your planting dates. Just because you see somebody planting online, they might have shot that video a year before, 2 years before, 3 months before, 1 week before. Look at your specific planting dates. Look at your specific planting zone. Look at everything like that. Look at your planting conditions. Just because I'm saying second week of August doesn't mean it should be second week of August for you. It might be third week of August because that's when we get rain. It might be first week of August. It might be the first week of September because August has been super dry, and I'm hoping that's not going to be the case, but that's how it is with planting our crops. It might be sauerkraut weekend on July 30th, 31st, August 1st, and it's going to be a big thunderstorm. I hope not. I hope it's August 3rd. And into that next month and away from sauerkraut weekend. I hope it's beautiful weather for sauerkraut weekend. But what I'm saying is, for the example, is if we got rain coming and it's the right conditions, and I'm watching that and starting to have that ground prepped for anticipation of doing that within 10 days, you can even go out there, if you are especially no-tilling these applications, let's just say spray August 2nd, plant August 3rd if that's according with the rain and works out right. You can spray and plant the same day if you're using a chemical such as glyphosate, as long as you're not using 2,4-D or something with any pre-emergent qualities to it, for an example. So we did plant corn this year in a lot of our fields, like I was saying. That is up high enough now to spray. However, we got a good effective kill the first time around, and it's been fairly dry, so we haven't had a lot of weed competition come up, and now the corn's up and pretty established. So what I'm probably going to go in and do is look at specifically the areas where there's large pockets of misses. What we found out with the drill, and we'll do more of an in-depth video with this, but this is kind of a good overview of the county drill. I think it's a great product. I think it's a great service that Wayne County does. Ian and those guys, they do a great service. They were able to get the grant money for a 6-foot drill now, so they have a 6-foot and a 10-foot, so we can rent a county drill to do a lot of our planting very cost effectively in comparison to buying a Great Plains drill. So, with that, side hills does not do very well because you can't keep it in very good ground contact with that drive wheel. Also, that means any unlevel ground or new planting areas where you can't really have that buried down, because then your wheel comes up. That's what I kind of liked a little bit better about the other one, was it wasn't wheel driven, it was actual ground driven by the mechanics of it. The 6-footer, and maybe I wasn't operating it quite right, but you had to have ground tires in contact to drive the drive wheels. So basically what you would get is, if that ground wheel picked up on one side, the drive side, because only driven off the one side, if it picked up on the drive side, or set too deep rather, is what it would do, rode up, whatever way you want to refer to that, it wasn't spinning the drum, which wasn't putting out seed. So we have skips in uneven spots, or like valley spots in a field and stuff like that. So we'll go back in, we'll fill that in with brassica so we don't have empty holes in our plantings and seedings. Now, some of those that were heavy brassicas the last 2 years, we'll probably switch gears and go cereal grain, wheat, or rye. Might also put in, depending on how much rain we're going to get, we might go with, and what it's going into next, we might go with like a medium red clover, crimson clover, biennial type clover stuff, not a perennial dino or something like that, but a medium red or a crimson or something that has a good fit for that. Balanza would be a really good one too into that situation. Wouldn't mind that at all. But seeding in some other crop, interseeding into that corn, because we're not harvesting the corn. This is planted strictly for food and for wildlife. Maximizing the tonnage on that acre and not letting that kind of slip to the wayside with the tonnage being a little low, because I'm not a farmer and I don't pretend to be. I like to try to play being a farmer, but I don't pretend to be a farmer. I can just tell you how I've messed up over the years and what we're doing to kind of fix those errors that I've made. But yeah, so planting dates coming up, and then our cereal grains, that would be even closer into September, first week of October. Labor Day is going to be like the start line for cereal grains. You don't want them to get up and too tall. You don't want them to start laying over and go into senescence going into that winter time frame. If it's like wheat or something where it's got too long into its life cycle, or rye, where it's basically saying, I'm done growing this year, I've put enough stores away to come out in the spring, it's time for me to go to sleep and basically like brown out and everything like that, kind of retreat a lot of its energy back into its root system for that winter, late fall time. I want that plant actively growing and trying to grab every little bit of nutrient it can, and working hard for me and being a real workhorse like wheat's always been. Wheat and red clover has been our food plot we planted probably over 20 years ago now, and if my dad's watching, he can probably chime in on this, but we were planting with a garden tractor and a chain link fence and a railroad tie, a Cub Cadet lawnmower in the early 2000s. I want to say 2001, 2002, we were planting some food plots on a piece of property we used to call the Bishop Farm. That was some of our first food plots that we ever did. Um, Little clover and wheat plots. And there's a couple cool stories of a couple deer that Dad killed over the years in and around those plots and everything too. So that's where we kind of cut our teeth with it. And then same thing when we got our piece of property. That's pretty much what we were running the first few food plots was with some Cub Cadet lawnmowers and probably was the same chain link fence and the same, pull behind horse-drawn drag that we had rigged up so we could, scratch the surface a little bit. Now we've gone no-till and run some drills and, you know, plant that way. And we do some traditional tillage. I'm not saying that it's in every application, but we still do some. Um, but it's not a majority of it. So other great things to be doing right now is shooting your bow. And a lot of people are going to say, well, I don't need to do it this early, but shoot your gun. I know a lot of guys do it the week before season, but the gun range gets all full up. You get lazy, you get complacent. I'd go shoot a couple rounds if you can find some time. Sometimes I'll throw the gun in the truck if I know I'm going there and around for work that day or that week possibly, and if there's a time I can sneak out there and get a couple rounds thrown quick with it. Even if it's at like the farm, I might do it, or if I'm going through Clyde, I'll stop at the gun club and shoot a couple rounds there. Doesn't take me very long setup, 15 minutes. I can get 2, 3, 4 rounds down range pretty easily and quick. They do have an iron buck there too, so I can shoot. I think that's at the 200-yard berm. I can shoot that one pretty fun and quick. Don't have any setup. I don't have to run down there and set anything up. I can just get on the bench, take my breaths, lock and load, and exhale and slowly squeeze and execute that shot. So working on that. Obviously shooting your bow, Heritage. We talked about them earlier. And then for Sauerkraut Fest. Sorry, it's at the Phelps Fire Department grounds. So brought to you in part by predominantly the Phelps Fire Department for hosting the event there at the grounds. When I said grounds for all the events, that was done by them. Majority of the organization is done by Amanda Cheney and my wife Hannah Williams, or Smith Williams if her name is hyphenated on her job title card. They organize a lot of the additional events that aren't at the grounds, some of the bands, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that you don't see that keeps that weekend running smoothly is those two ladies. So shout out to them. If I'm shouting out Phelps Fire, I'm going to be shouting out the girls too for all they do for Sauerkraut Weekend, because there's a ton of it that goes on, and it couldn't be the event that it is without those two ladies. So thank you for everything you do for Phelps. And they just got a couple awards for Clifton Springs Phelps Rotary. They were honored with an award just a couple weeks ago as well. So there are folks that do see it, and I think it was very well deserved. But alrighty, we talked food plots. We talked what you should be doing right now. The other thing is trail cameras. I would start getting your trail cameras out, start getting them soaking. I got mine all pulled out to get tooled up with batteries and SD cards, and I'm hoping to get maybe a few out in the next 3 days, maybe. We'll see if I can get a couple out in the next 3 days before I fly out to St. Louis on Sunday morning, very early, and then I'll be back sometime on Wednesday, probably late evening on Wednesday, is when I'll be back. So if I don't get them out, I might not get any pictures before my birthday. I love getting pictures of deer on my birthday. So trail cameras are a big thing to get out there right now. And I wouldn't necessarily worry about getting them or getting as many pictures as you would think you would get. I would get them into your community scrape locations. You will start hitting some of these bucks right now on those community scrape locations. You might not be getting them every day because summertime transition is going to be a lot different than fall time transition in land use. So what I'll say with that is get those into those community scrape locations. Get those maybe into those bedding areas they're not really using right now. Some of those thickets between cover that maybe you're just going to let that camera soak all season. I don't put like cell cams back in bedding areas. I know there's some folks that say they can pick up on that with a fifth sense or sixth sense. Sorry, sixth sense. But I'm just not running them back in those bedding areas. Don't really have the setup for it, and that's not really my kind of style with it. I don't run a lot of cell cams at all. I've run a couple over the years, but nothing major. Mostly for security purposes more than anything with the cell cameras. I'm using my annual data, which we talk about a lot for the 1 year rule information, to target a lot of these deer year to year to year. So, but right now I'm starting to figure out which of those bucks, and that's why I like sometime after the 4th of July, typically is when I like to get them out, but I'm like a week behind. Tim and Heather were out of town for 2 weeks between the two of them, so there was a lot of stuff to cover for the team and the territory while they were out of town. So couldn't get as much of my personal stuff done as I wanted to because I was in the field a lot for work, which is great. Was busy, was very productive. Can't complain at all with that. So now I want to try to get a couple cameras out before we head out of town for 3 days for the sales meeting. So trail cameras are big right now. I would get them on your food plots, even if that's not your food plot. That's going to be your fall plot, or is going to be your fall plot. Sorry, and isn't planted yet. I would look at getting those into those plots and start establishing a scrape in that location, travel going into that location, anticipated deer use, basically anything that's going to give me some kind of data to let me know that that deer is alive, whether he's just coming through. And they do this, and you'll see them do this where a buck that you have on your property year in and year out will consistently use a field or a section of that property different times of the year and at different intervals or different frequencies. So he might be over here in zone 1 right now, and he's here once a week in zone 1. And then he doesn't come back into zone 1, let's say, until third week, fourth week of October. But then when he's in there that time of year, you're getting a picture of him once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day in that same zone on that property. And what you'll see is they get into cyclitic areas. And their areas that they're using right now in the summer aren't necessarily the same ones they're going to be using in the fall time frame. Some of them do commingle, especially if you're looking at a property in zones. But the way they use that landscape and travel that landscape is going to change. The other thing that's going to change some of my camera placement too, and the reason I haven't got out there really heavy yet, is we're still waiting, which actually might get done while I'm in St. Louis, that week that I'm in St. Louis, um, is getting our trails cleaned up after our logging was done this past year. Now, there's not going to be a ton of work to get done. It's mostly just, grade them up a little bit, clean up a couple of the ruts and a couple of the issues that are in a couple of very, very isolated spots, but cleaning those areas up a little bit better. That way, the dozer isn't wiping out some of my trail cameras because some of these new logging roads are going to have trail cameras on them. So that's another reason why I've kind of dragged my feet a little bit on getting my cameras out. Um, so actually, Trevor's on my call list this week to try to figure out when's a good time to get over there to get that done. Um, Other than that, the clover plots we have right now are looking phenomenal. They're looking as good, if not better, than the one you see behind me. And this one was pretty darn good that year. So what else do we got to do right now this time of the year? If you are in the market for looking for a piece of ground, little word of advice. In New York right now, little real estate insight with this. We are seeing 30 days is a very quick close. 45 days is a quick close. 60 days to 75 days is our normal close rate right now. What does that mean? That means that if you're looking to hunt a property October 1st, you will have to put it under contract by August 1st. In reality, to be able to hunt that by deer season. Now, there's some situations where we've negotiated early access for stand placement, trail cameras, some hunting use, stuff like that. Different things. It depends and varies based on the property. But as a rule of thumb, from contract date to close date, you're going to be 60 days basically is your average. I would say plan on maybe a little bit longer than 60. We haven't seen very many 30s. I think my quickest last year was 22 days, and that one was very quick and not really anticipated that it was going to be that quick. Got a couple right now. Um, End of May. That one should close actually here by end of July, probably right around my birthday, sauerkraut weekend time. I'm just looking at my board. It's a Cloverfield. I feel like a weatherman right now. And then I got a couple other ones I put under contract in that same week. They'll should be closing hopefully in August. Everything sounds pretty good with them. One we're still working out a little wrinkle with getting an updated survey for it. But if you're looking to get a new property by this hunting season, October 1st, you're gonna have to probably put it under contract first week, maybe second week of August. If you're not looking at hunting it until November, you might be able to push that till September. Um, However, it seems that my phone starts ringing every year, second week of September, no fail. Like that's like one of my busiest weeks of the year. It feels like is the second week of September. Maybe it's Labor Day. People got that last little bit off from work, and they go. Maybe they went to their property to trim tree stands, and the farmer said you can't hunt here anymore. Or maybe it finally hit them that oh yeah, I didn't figure out a new place to hunt this year. Or I'm tired of the place I had because I ran into 2, 3 people. Or there's somebody out there, during the doe season shooting does and putting a lot of pressure on the ground around me. So um, there is some good inventory right now out there. We are seeing inventory on the market pick up. We're seeing inventory stay fairly steady on market. Again, like always, doesn't matter what the market is. If the property is priced accordingly and priced right and priced competitively, um, they move and they get a lot of eyes and they get a lot of traffic. Especially if there's a lot of other stuff on the market and then that one is positioned and priced accordingly, and there's strategy that goes behind that and the reasoning behind that and the psychology behind that with the pricing and the marketing and the presentation of that property becomes even more key when there's more inventory out there to help you stand out from the properties that are out there. Um, and working with an agent that helps you pick apart those properties is the biggest thing I think to being successful in that is finding something when it hits the market because the right deals and the right properties that are attractive are usually attractive to a large number of people or a larger number of people. It's not just you that thinks that property is great. It's typically more than one person. Um, for those highly attractive properties, and I'm talking ones with water features, with camps or cabins, or turnkey type stuff. Those ones are very attractive properties, and if they are priced very competitively and appropriately for the market they're in, they don't last. They're just like multi-offer situation homes and stuff like that. They don't last. Where you get into some more unique properties, large acre properties, they sit a while because that's a smaller buyer pool. But anything under 100, 150,000, relatively, depending on acreage and location and area, we don't see a lot of that inventory staying on market very long. That seems to be where most folks can figure out the funds and the financing to do that. There is one that we'll talk about here as I talk about my 2 listings I want to highlight. Um, the one I have updated photos for, both of these haven't updated on the website yet. They should update by this weekend on the website. But I did rephotograph them, so that will be showing here very soon. But I want to touch on my 2 listings I have right now that are actives. Let me see here. I need to share my screen, and I want so this one right here, this one we've talked about on episodes before. Um, add this back in. I believe you can still hear me talking. Yep, I see my mic pop back up now. This one is one of them that falls under a unique property. We just rephotographed this property and re-up the listing information and everything for this property. beautiful vineyard, 20 plus acres. It's got a beautiful mix of oak, some early successional type habitat, some great deer sign. This is a great place to build a piece of property where you can have your own private vineyard, where you can build a nice house set back on this hill, actually kind of where this photo is taken back in here. There's some wetland areas with some white oak. There's some upland areas with some, large white oak, as you can see in this picture on the other side of that rub. There's some really nice, a few nice timber trees on this property. I think they would work better in keeping the aesthetics of that woodlot personally. But there is some timber value there, vineyard value. There's trails throughout the property. It's just beautiful, picturesque sunrise and sunsets accordingly. This is obviously taken a few months ago when we first listed the property, right when we had snow on the tail end of winter, just a couple short months ago here in New York. But beautiful property. Got everything there. The vines are there. Some equipment is negotiable with the sale of the property. It is a mix of Niagaras and Concords. They got some really cute helpers there on the farm as well. So you might see them there if that property ends up being one that you buy. But beautiful production, high tonnage production of grapes. And then, like I said, some of these beautiful sunrises and sunsets on this property are absolutely unbelievable here in Yates County. So, interested in something like that? Specialty property, very unique property. Reach out to us today, or if you're looking for a recreational hunting piece, this next one might be for you. Let me get the other screen up. Oh, we gotta stop that one. Stand by. So next up on the list is this one. Again, these were just rephotographed. The photos will be all updated on the website by the end of the weekend. By the end of the week. This one actually just saw a price improvement. We just turned the price to $49.9. Rephotographed it, obviously. This is a great recreational hunting property. I think it has the possibility and potential to build according to town zoning, but I would reach out to them specifically for minimum build size and requirements for the build. It does have a power line right away that goes through the property. It's got a great mix of shrubs, wooded habitat, open fields on the power line that is mowed and maintained. Some mature timber, not a ton. Great deer sign. This is a great recreational hunting property. Some great deer were on the property last year and photographed as well. A couple really nice bucks were on this property last year. Abundant wildlife, lots of deer. You can see, I think there's 6 or 7 does in this trail cam photo. You got fox. This I think would be a great little food plot where this camera was. And then raccoon. Another nice little buck here that's here. This is kind of like, I call this the old campsite slash where the old barn and the stall was. I think it was like a run stall right here. There's a photo of it. Great looking property. This one's in Cayuga County, Duck Lake Road up in the town of Conquest. 20 miles from Auburn, 30 miles Fairhaven, 35 from Syracuse, 70 from Rochester because it's down that 104 corridor quite a ways. All mineral rights conveyed. Does have some wetlands on the property. Very affordable taxes. Great property all in all. I think it sets up really well for Southwind early season farm. Big travel corridor on this power line. You got a little bit of woods mix. You can really work on the habitat on this power line. Tree planting's not going to be able to get done, but what we found with the power line right of ways that we have is if you keep them maintained and manicured to some effect, I guess you'd call it, planted or otherwise, or managed accordingly. I think this is just screaming for a couple box blinds, few tree stands, and couple food plots, and this thing would jump off the table. You're a stone's throw from Duck Lake. This is Duck Lake right here. As well. So great little recreational piece. Again, the back third of it probably is wetland or seasonally wet. Not so big a deal right now. Got pretty good frontage here. power line kind of goes across in this direction, and then there's a power, like smaller poles, utility poles here, goes across the front of it there. So sounds like zoning says that building is an option, but again, reach out to town zoning, or if you'd like that information, let me know. I'd be able to hook you up with their contact information, and you can tell them exactly what you're looking to do with it. But I think it's a great rec piece, and with this price improvement, I don't see this one lasting very long at all either with it. So anyway, last but not least, since it's been sitting here all night and I haven't had a pour of it yet, cheers to anybody at home tuning in, and hope you're having a pour and enjoying the conversation. I've seen a few people jump on and take off. Frank must have jumped out when he saw no grasshoppers. Man, I like that pour. It's got a nice little rye spice to it. Not going to kill you, though, at 100 proof. My first pour of the night, though. First pour in a couple days, actually, because I've been busy. But yeah, other than that, market stuff right now. A couple counties that we see that are low, that are always traditionally low. Wayne, Cayuga. But there are a few things coming on. Tioga, Chemung starts, staying constant. I've signed up a few more buyers here recently and helping them pick some stuff apart. A couple of them, I think, have found a piece that they're going to move forward with on an offer. Other ones, we're just trying to find the right one, and a lot of them are first-time buyers too for land. So a lot of them are also trying to figure out what they want in a piece of property. They think they want this, but really they end up finding something else and they like that better, or that's where they end up at the end of the day. But if you are interested in starting your land search or where that might look like for you, here's going to be my little infomercial, I guess, about myself before I cut out. My goal is to help you. Now, that doesn't matter if it's a $10,000 property or $1 million property. My goal is to find you that piece of property. Doesn't matter how many properties we look at. Doesn't matter how few we look at. When it's right, it'll be right. When the deal comes together, it's the deal that's meant to come together, is what I always tell folks. Don't get hung up on the one that didn't happen, because we can't control that anymore. My job is to set you up for the best success. What's that mean? That means giving you an idea of the timeline, giving you an idea of how that works, and not just telling you what is a good property, but listening to you about what makes that property good for you, or not good for you. If you're looking for a recreational hunting piece, great, we can pick that apart. If you're looking for one that is buildable, that might not be the best recreational hunting piece. Or same thing, only different. If we're looking for a rec piece and this one's got subdivision potential and timber value and stuff that you might not care about looking at it from a hunting standpoint, my goal is to help blend that to what your goals are. And I tell folks, if we can get a property that's a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, and then develop those other couple 2 or 3 points to make it that 9 or 10 out of 10, that's where we want to be. Especially in that budget range. Budget range is like 2 points of that 10 points, 3 points, kind of like a prerequisite, really. Without it being in the budget line, it's not gonna. Speaking of budget, if it's a cash purchase, having those proof of funds available, because we're seeing a lot of that on the market right now where sellers are requiring buyers to be qualified before coming on the property, meaning presenting a proof of funds or a pre-qualification letter. Very simple to get from your bank or lender, or a note from your bank saying you have those funds, or your accountant, or whatever way we can make that work for your situation. But that puts you in a best position. I'll peel back the curtain a little bit. That puts you in the best position to get on the most pieces of property and to make your offer the most attractive when you're ready to make that offer. I don't want to be calling a bank on a Saturday or a Sunday because nobody is going to pick up to get you a pre-qual letter to put with our offer. Because, hey, the property just got listed and got listed on Wednesday or Monday, and all offers are due by the following Wednesday. Now we're working on maybe a 2 business day turnaround when we looked at it on Saturday. It's better to have that proof of funds or that pre-approval letter or the pre-qualification letter from that lender or from that financial institution before we're out there in that search active, so that when we're ready to make that move and when you're ready to make that move and pull the trigger on that property, no pun intended, um, you're ready to make that move and you're in the best position to make that move. Having your attorney figured out ahead of time, so we're not going back and forth in the contract period and trying to figure out who you want to use for an attorney. Um, it's not necessarily required, just like the proof of funds isn't required for every property. Attorney's not required until we're in the attorney approval process. However, it's things that can bog down the process, things that can cause other parties to come in and slip in and undercut your supposed deal that you have. Until the attorney approval is done and until earnest money is exchanged, that contract is not binding in New York. Um, Not very well bound in New York, let's put it that way. Until it's through that attorney approval period and there's been earnest money that's been deposited in escrow, that's about as lock, stock, and barrel as you can put, tied up into that agreement with it. If you don't have an earnest money deposit to bind that contract and you don't have an attorney approval, there's ways you can unwind it. There's ways attorneys can unwind it. Let me put it that way. I guess that's a better way to look at it. Um, I don't want to see that happen to you. I don't want to see somebody come in and undercut your deal with it. My job is to have that be as smooth and as clean and as crisp and efficient process as we can. Step 2 of this is once we have it under contract, now what? Well, it's in the attorney's hands. After we've got the earnest money straightened out, we get our earnest money receipt for our records and for your records on the buyer side or seller side. And then it is our job to keep on the attorneys until this thing closes. Because it seems to be the way of the world where we hurry up, get the offer written, get it sent, get it over, and then we don't hear anything for 30 days, 20 days, whatever it is, from our attorney's office or whatever it might be, even the good ones. You don't hear a whole lot because they're working behind the scenes with it. So it's our job to keep on them every week, every 2 weeks, or whatever that time frame is like, hey, just checking in on this deal, where's it at? Giving that update to the buyer or seller. Keeping that dialogue open so nobody feels like, they haven't heard anything. Just had one the other day that it was coming up on, 2 going on maybe 3 weeks. They're like, I haven't heard anything from my attorney. I was like, totally normal. I haven't heard anything either. I reached out. They hadn't got the documents, and then by the next, I think 2 days later, they sent me another message back. Hey, we got the title documents from the seller. We should be moving right along here pretty good. So perfect. But keeping that dialogue open, also making sure that the buyer in that transaction has their financing finally approved by the bank, helping them organize surveys and keeping all the parts and pieces moving in an effective manner. And some of these are a little bit more creative. One of these ones I'm working on right now currently is a subdivision from a larger parcel. It was actually advertised as a smaller subdivision, but we negotiated a larger chunk of acreage for a very, very good price for that buyer, which I was on the buyer's side on that one, not on the seller's side. But we were able to negotiate a good deal for both parties. I think it was a very good deal on the buyer's side. That was getting surveyed this past week, so we should have the new updated survey here within a week to 10 days, I would say. And then we'll be able to put a final purchase price on that. So we got creative with that one a little bit, and instead of giving a flat, X dollar for that property, what we did was give an X dollar per acre for that property. And what that does is gives it the fairest shake to both parties, where this is what we agree that is getting paid per acre for this property. And we're going to draw the line on Land ID or Onyx or whatever mapping software you want to draw it on. And we're basically saying that this is the area, giving that map to the surveyor. They have the points, they have that stuff. Now they can go out and plot that. Now, let's just say it was 40 acres. The surveyor comes back, it's 43 acres. Okay, there's variance built into the contract where that's acceptable. up to X dollars, but we did it at X dollars per acre in that transaction. And that made a lot of sense for both parties because that way nobody felt like this person was getting more, this person was getting less. At the end of the day, this amount of acreage is getting sold for this dollar amount, and that's going to be what it sells for at the end of the day. Now, we anticipate it's going to be at a said dollar amount, but we won't know until it gets surveyed, and then we calculate it out. Other ones are tricky in certain situations where you have to essentially kind of double close or sell a property to buy another property. So you have to basically close and then close kind of deal. Um, those ones can be more tricky with timelines. Um, but the biggest thing I don't want to see people doing in that situation is selling a property, specifically like a primary residence, without another property located. You're selling your home and then again potentially setting yourself up for issues or hangups or um, just stress, any of that stuff along the way. Where if you're selling your primary home to buy another home, um, and there's lenders that'll work with you on this if you know which lenders to talk to, um, and which individuals can make this deal happen with the timeline effectively. Where if you're selling your primary residence to buy another primary residence, that's a very scary thing and a very stressful thing to have a double close situation. Um, if at all possible, I would recommend not selling your house before you've located a house because then you have to move twice into a rental or back home with your parents or with your uncle or with your sister or whatever it is. Those situations I would strongly advise folks not to get into because all it takes is the other party that you're buying this house that you love or this property you love so much from to have that deal fall apart. It's a lot of moving pieces on both sides. So in those situations, it would have to be very, very strong deals, very, very well presented offers, I think, for me to give good counsel to my clients in that situation to tell them, hey, I think this is the best case scenario we could hope for. Or also tell them, yeah, this isn't passing the sniff test. This is really leaving you guys with a lot of exposure to, you know, they're over leveraged or whatever it is on both sides, it can be issues. And I try to mitigate as many issues as I can for folks and close deals out. Um, Also with stuff with somebody that's going to go to bat for you, working with somebody that goes and does a pre-closing inspection and then basically says, hey, we can't close on this tomorrow because this house is full of, it's got several dumpsters full of stuff left behind by the previous sellers. I'm not saying it was all trash, but I'm just saying it was a ton of material left behind in a house that is supposed to be sold and transferring as broom clean, which it was not. So basically, what we were able to do is negotiate a seller credit back to the buyer at the closing table in that situation, for the removal and the dumpster rental and stuff for that debris, in that situation. So there's a lot of ways we can get creative with that, um, and it just depends on the situation and just working with an agent that can work with you and kind of see more than the traditional. Okay, cool. You want to buy a house? Let's buy a house. Boom, buy a house. Some of them are that easy. I wish they were all that easy. Um, but it seems to be that there's always little hiccups and little blips, and having somebody that can keep a good, calm, cool head with that, and also turn up the heat a little bit in certain situations when you need to, or get creative when the lender that they want to use says, "Hey, can't loan on that kind of property." We see it all the time with folks with credit unions. Credit unions don't loan on land. I haven't found one yet. If you have one, drop it in the comments, shoot me a message. I would love to talk to a credit union that lends on land. Haven't found one yet. So, or different banks and lenders not lending on a property because a trailer was a specific age or didn't have a HUD tag or whatever it might be, um, or a data sheet for that property, for that trailer. Found a lender that loaned on it as a vacant land with improvements and was able to get that land or that loan executed for them and actually appraised above their purchase price, which blew their mind a little bit too. Um, So yeah, there's a ton of things out there when it comes to it. It's not a standard set, like a standard deal. There is no such thing as a standard deal. They're all different. Um, but working with somebody that has a little bit of the nuances, um, and I'll tell you, I see new things every day, and in every deal, I see something a little bit new. Um, some things where people at the pre-closing inspection say, "Hey, where'd those moose curtains go that were on this?" Well, they took them with them. We're not closing without the moose curtains. It's a real story. I tell it all the time. Um, and then you get in other situations where they're like, you know, got to have the tractor with it, and the seller doesn't want to sell the tractor. There's things where you can spin it and talk through it and stuff, but other stuff you just see some of the weirdest things. Man, I don't like that they left their boots in the doorway for the showing. That was one I got one time. The boots were in the middle of the doorway in kind of the mudroom going into the house, and they didn't like how that was done. They should have been pushed off to the side and kept up. The other one that is a pet peeve of mine for showing properties, this is the last one, is not cleaning sinks and not cleaning toilets. If your property is going to market, and I know sometimes these showings get dropped at the last minute, but I would be cleaning your sink and your toilet and that stuff every day. And make your bed very an easy way. Quick throw blanket with a couple pillowcases, obviously. Make it look well kept for, because when there's clutter, there's debris, there's anything like that, trash in some instances. Um, when it doesn't look put together, the same thing goes with a hunting piece or a rec piece. When it doesn't look mowed and manicured and maintained, just like it doesn't look clean and organized, um, that psychologically affects those buyers coming to look at your property. So talk to somebody that knows land. There's a lot of good agents out there, on the land side for sure, and the home side as well. But really, work with somebody that knows what they can do, has done a lot of transactions, had a high success rate in transactions, um, is a big thing. And yeah, that's my TED talk. That's my soapbox pitch about myself. So, um, did a very good year last year and want to continue with this same thing. I'm gonna hit the same number of transactions. Probably I'll be up 25%, maybe a little bit more, judging by this year so far. Um, Total gross will be up a little bit. Acreage might be up. Probably not though. Acreage will probably be down. I did sell a big one last year. Did sell a 600. So, but I've sold a couple, bunch of 50s this year, 110. Yeah, a bunch in the 50s, 60s actually. 110. So, yeah, acreage is coming, and we'll see. Can't control them, but work with the buyers we can, and get them into the right pieces, and work with the sellers and find them the right buyers for their property and showcase it. That's what we're doing. Rephotographing, um, and keeping that listing looking fresh, looking nice, and getting creative with the other one that is coming off market here, coming up. We're gonna get creative when we relist it here shortly thereafter, and keep rolling with it. Also have ranch and farm auctions here in New York, so if that's a fit for your property, we'd be happy to look at that and discuss that with you as well. Um, that's a new feature, that we had a very successful auction this past year. Did very well at it, and can't say enough good things about the marketing and the brand awareness and everything that this company brings with it. So, and when you surround it with just good people and good hard workers, you're going to breed success. So, all right, guys. Ben Williams, 100 Proof Whitetails and Whitetail Properties, with the episode 96 of the 100 Proof Podcast. Solo, short, and late. July. Heating up. Coming off a hot span and forest fires in Canada, and heading into a lot of community weekends coming up, and St. Louis trip. It's going to get busy, guys. check out the roadside stand at the corner of 48 and Shrew Road. Here's my last plug for the farm. We do have M&R's firewood. We have our eggs. We'll have some veggies here this week. And it sounds like we got a sweet corn provider. So stay tuned for more updates on that, guys. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate you if you're still hanging on with us. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And let us know what you think. Drop us a review and a comment. And I will see you all next time. As Nate would say, see you!